Yeah.
Like many students with disabilities, graduating out of the school system can be a difficult transition. Moving from a Monday to Friday, 9 to 4 routine, to one with no support, no structure, and nowhere to go, can result in a frustrating life for everyone involved. Melissa Behrens and her family were no different. When Melissa graduated from high school in 1986, there were very few options available to her, and she ended up living at Southwest Regional Centre.
Well, the big problem is they go to school till 21, and then they're home, and then the parents have them, just like this, overnight, they're yours again. No, nothing else to do. I mean, the school was quite structured. No, she went there every morning, got picked up by taxi or by bus, and then she came home, what, 2:30, 3 o'clock? So half her day was occupied until they're 21, and then all of a sudden, no, you have them full-time again.
Well, what happened with Melissa, we needed some respite care because you do have to go on vacation once in a while, and she did attend the Southwest Regional Centre, which is near Blenheim. It's an institution, and they had the respite care, and at the time they also did some testing on her, and then it just, from there, they wanted to put her into a kind of a workshop. This is what she did, just to socialization and to watch her, because Melissa did have aggressive tendencies. That was a big problem. Never at home, just away from home. So that was another reason she did go to Southwest Regional, and also that's how she ended up actually living there. She was admitted in 1987, and actually was discharged March of 2000. But during that time, she was home every 2 weeks. She spent the entire summer with us. So she had actually, we always said she had 3 homes. She had up there, she had with us, and then she spent time with Grandma too. So she was never neglected. You know, she was always around and home. Yeah.
Why do you sleep in this bed?
Straight it.
This is my bed, right, Sean?
Yeah.
Well, this Grandma's bed.
Melissa lived for 13 years in the institution, but it wasn't until they began to move people out and began developing methods of funding people individually that her options opened up.
They offered us some money in 2000 that they would give us some money to take care of staffing for Melissa, and it's called individualized funding, and it stays with the person. If she moved to another city or town, that is to stay with them.
Or province.
Or province, yes. And anyway, that is what they offered us, so we made as many arrangements as we could and brought her home.
It was an incredible opportunity for the Behrens. Instead of simply securing a placement in a group home or workshop, they had an opportunity to create a life with and for Melissa based on her specific needs and interests. But where do you go when you want something different and unique?
To me, it's detrimental to work in a workshop, and I don't mean that in a snobbish way. It's just, I think they can do better than that. I didn't want that for Melissa.
The dilemma that Melissa and her family faced is one that many families must deal with. In considering their options and developing a plan for their adult children, the only support and guidance parents can often find comes from social service agencies that provide direct services. No matter how hard they try to be neutral and open-minded, agencies can only offer what they sell. It's a little like consulting a car dealer about the type of car you should buy. It's nearly impossible to get independent advice. That's why families and organizations supporting person-directed living advocate for independent planning through a third-party organization that doesn't provide direct services. Families lucky enough to live in Windsor have access to the first unencumbered planning organization in Ontario, the Windsor Essex Brokerage for personal supports.
We offer no services. We don't provide work for people. We don't provide staffing for people. We don't provide homes. We don't do that. We have agencies and service providers in this area who are very skilled at that. And so if people were looking for those kinds of supports and services, that's where they'd go to get those. What we do is really an independent kind of planning, so people, with the people that they trust, can figure out what they want to do with their life.
So with the help of Brokerage, Melissa, Carol, and Manfred began creating a new life for Melissa. They had 3 areas they wanted to focus on. First, they wanted Melissa to be involved in a work environment that interested her, and they wanted her to contribute in a way that would have value. Second, they wanted her to participate in activities and have interests outside of her home. And lastly, they wanted to plan for the future by setting Melissa up in a situation where she could live safely and happily long after they pass on. To get started, they first considered Melissa's work week. Melissa has always been passionate about animals, so Carol approached Colasante's Tropical Gardens and Petting Zoo about a position.
Melissa does volunteer work at Colasante's Tropical Gardens, which is it's in Leamington, which is about 40 kilometers from here, and it's quite a tourist attraction. He has greenhouses, and he has lots of animals. Mr. Colasante loves getting these baby tigers and panthers and lots of birds, and she works with the animals there. So she's got a terrific job.
They have a bottle there, right? What is it? A cuckoo. What a jaguar.
Melissa had several additional hours in her week that she could contribute to others, so Carol approached a local nursing home. As a volunteer, Melissa and her support worker offer manicures every Thursday morning. It gives her a chance to meet new people while providing them with a service they need and appreciate. Next, they considered the types of activities Melissa was interested in. She's a very social and outgoing person, looks forward to special events. So it's important that she has a busy, structured schedule. Every week, Melissa attends fitness classes and water aerobics. She attends Weight Watchers and has lost over 80 pounds since leaving the institution. She loves to bowl, shop, and go out for coffee or lunch. She even has time to attend People First chapter meetings on a regular basis. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle was to consider where Melissa would live. As she moved from the institution, they felt they'd come up with the perfect plan.
She was to live with my mother. She lives a block and a half away from us. She has her own home. And Mom and Melissa, always got along very nicely. And Mom was lonely, so we thought, well, ideal situation. And we tried it, with 3 days at a time. Seemed to be fine. Brought her home. It lasted about 6 months. And then Mom couldn't, the intrusion of having staff coming and go, she couldn't cope with it. So consequently, Melissa moved in back home with us.
One of the strengths of self-directed living is that it can be flexible and allows for trial and error. You often don't know what will work until you try. So Carol, Manfred, and Melissa decided that purchasing or renting a home may be a good option. While they were looking, they were surprised with a unique offer.
Our son and daughter-in-law, they are the ones that have the 2 grandchildren, approached us last year. He said that we know that we will have to be Melissa's caregivers eventually. So rather than buy her a house, because there have always been house hunting. That's their weekend thing. They house hunt every weekend. So they told us that, you know, Melissa will be living with them, but of course they needed a bigger house. So we told them to, well, if you find something that's appropriate, then we will help them out. Well, they did. They found a house, and consequently, Melissa has her own bathroom, kitchen, and large bedroom, separate from them, but part of the house.
Leah thinks I'm funny. That's why they thought I should live with them, because Kurt and Les didn't want me to be alone. They wanted their nephews here, and they were bugging Eric, please let Melissa come.
You know, we talked about it a lot. Like, this is something we talked about for a year before we even approached his parents to tell them that we've been thinking about it. You know, we want to make sure.
So came to a little bit of a shock to them because it was the first time we addressed it, but it's like, no, we didn't just jump on this.
Yeah.
So Melissa moved in with her brother Eric, his wife Leah, and their sons Kurt and Les. She has a separate apartment in the basement with a separate entrance. When she's not out doing things, she spends time with the family, going to church, on holidays, or helping Kurt and Les with their papers. She loves being with her nephews, and they miss her when she's away. And Eric and Leah have found she's had a great influence on the boys.
My kids really enjoy showing her things and teaching her things and helping her with things. They really like doing that. And it's taught them how to be helpful and responsible. And like, I have a friend, she's blind, and she's very impressed at how Les and Kurt will just do things for her without her even asking or pointing things out. And I think a lot of that has to do with their interactions with Melissa. It just comes naturally to them to be helpful.
Could an aunt possibly give a better gift to her nephews than the opportunity to learn to become responsible, sensitive, and caring? In 4 short years, Melissa went from living in an institution to living in an apartment of her own. She has work that intrigues her and is valued by others. She's sharing her gifts with her family and throughout the community, and her parents have the time to enjoy their retirement years. All in all, you'd have to say that things are working out for Melissa and her family.
Go to those 2 over there, okay? The boat and the other one beside it, okay?